behind it.
I agree with that as well.
So I was gonna talk a little bit about motive here. So one of the other kind of, aside from the some of the physics and direction of the shots, or which way he could have been shot from. Obviously, there's still debate. That's part of the conspiracy, part of the theories. There's also a pretty low level of motive available or attributed to Lee Harvey Oswald. No one is really clear why exactly he would kill President Kennedy. So there are some kind of larger thoughts around this as well. Potentially like Fidel Castro. Again, we talked about the Bay of Pigs. So Cuba is theorized by some to have been involved in the murder. I mean, Fidel Castro denied this, but Cubans are one major conspiracy theory as far as motive and reason. Oil tycoons. Kennedy was trying to implement tax reform. That would have been major implications for this industry. The CIA, we mentioned this before. So the CIA is one that potentially had a hand in this assassination. The theory there is that the best motive for murder is self-defense. So we talked about Kennedy's dislike for the CIA. He fired some of their top guys, put a lot of their operatives under the State Department. So there was some thought that maybe he was going to be attempting to dismantle the CIA. So it's a threat of survival. The Mafia, talked about Buddy Jack Ruby.
The upstanding business owner. Yes.
Kennedy was spearheading investigations into organized crime. So that was another kind of group that didn't particularly care for him. And then the military-industrial complex. So again, Kennedy was kind of against military involvement in a lot of ways, particularly in Vietnam. So he was working kind of privately on pulling troops out of Vietnam by 1965. So war is a pretty profitable thing for a lot of industries. So that this was one that gets a lot of traction as well as potential motive for why someone would want to assassinate JFK.
I think kind of how you started with history as far as motive goes. I think a good way is to kind of start from the official and work backwards. As you pointed out, the Oswald, his motives have never been clear. They've always been very, very weak as far as why he would do it.
Right.
Now, how familiar are you with his movements, if you were, in the years before the assassination?
I wouldn't say I'm intimately familiar, but why are you laughing, Chase?
I am. Let's talk. I mean, this is a strange episode because I don't actually have any weird theories, and I am if we will, I am a team Oswald.
I think you're team government. You used to work for the government. You've been brainwashed.
It doesn't. No, I've taken the facts. I've done the proper analysis, and I am not in any conspiracy theory court.
Hold on, I think if you have taken the facts and you have made an objective rationalization, you would not have talked about the things you've talked about in the last 6 episodes.
Well, I think you can agree to disagree, but in this case, let's talk about Lee Harvey Oswald, because I do not believe that there is any other inner workings or conspiracies outside of this besides Lee Harvey Oswald did this. So,
well, I mean, he was he is a Marine from 56 to 59, 3 years, I believe. He served in the Marine Corps, I believe, as I always pronounce the B for some ungodly reason. Was honorably discharged and promptly defected to the Soviet Union. Moved there for 2-ish years. Was married. Came back in, I think, about a year before the assassination with his wife. As you touched on, did go to the Soviet embassy in Mexico. There are purportedly recordings that the CIA had of him in that meeting in Mexico that they promptly destroyed during or just before or after the Warren Commission. A lot of the evidence that the CIA had on Oswald, because according to a lot of reports, they were very intrigued by him, rightfully so, being a Marine that defected to the Soviet Union and then re-entered the United States. I believe in the height of the Cold War, I would probably be pretty suspicious of him myself.
Yeah, but let's talk about this motherfucker for a second, because I think that's I think as much as that history is correct, I think there's a large amount of his life that lends towards why Lee Harvey Oswald would do something like this, right? So yes, he is a Marine, right? He goes into the Marines, and everybody, well, not everybody, but the people that doubt his marksmanship ability say, well, he's not a good shot, right? So
he wasn't.
How the fuck do we know he's not a good shot?
Because he got tested. He had to, go through those skills tests or whatever. And
I
know
understood.
that if I'm placing my troops in a certain position, I'm going to put the best shots behind the radar.
Come on. No, listen.
That's
You
my...
guys are going to get me fucking fired up. So, Lee Harvey Oswald he goes into the Marines. He's this scrawny little 5'8" guy. And obviously we know the Marines. They are not scrawny people.
Are you saying short people can't shoot?
No, I'm saying, listen,
I
let me tell
hope
my goddamn
buddy
story.
Ryan is listening to this.
So he goes into the Marines, and he gets tested just like every other Marine does. His size, it doesn't matter. So let's just disregard that.
Size doesn't matter, Chase. It's a very important mantra. I know you believe it very, very deep in your heart.
He goes in the Marines, and he tests the same way that anybody else does. So as far as marksmanship goes,
he was poor.
This motherfucker. No, he was not poor. He tested above average of the middle ranking.
In the
1950s
Marines, there was three main rankings for ability to shoot.
Yep.
Marksman, which was his ranking, was the third, the lowest, the bottom ranking.
So, and what was the next one?
Sharpshooter was number 2. Expert was number 1.
So, the first time that he tests, or at least at one point in his military career, he tests a tad bit above sharpshooter.
No, tad bit above marksman, barely sharpshooter.
That is a wrong fact. Look it up. You can look up wherever you want to, but that is a wrong fact. At some point in his military career, before he moves down to marksman, he gets the rank of sharpshooter, just a little bit above sharpshooter, I will admit. However, he is an above average shooter based off of the stats. At some point before he leaves the military, he gets the designation of marksman. At some point he degrades.
Degrades?
He downgrades, degrades, whatever. He degrades his ability to shoot. But at some point, he did have the ability of an average to above average shooter in the Marine.
Disagree with you, but
you don't have to. There's nothing to disagree about. That's a statistic.
Well, no. He's not. Well, it is a statistic, and you're not wrong. This is like
no shit.
But hey, whoa! All right, we did get him fired up. I like this. All right, so. So he did. He qualified as a sharpshooter, not slightly above sharpshooter, but slightly above the threshold to be a sharpshooter.
Just barely.
But that was early. That was early in his military career.
Listen, if you have to hit 5 targets to be a sharpshooter, and you hit 6 targets, you have tested above being a sharpshooter. So let's just you're
in the range of a sharp. But if you have to hit 5 targets to be a sharpshooter, but you have to hit 8 targets to be an expert, and you hit 6 targets, what are you? You're a low end of sharpshooter. You're not the lowest end. It doesn't matter.
You still qualify as a goddamn sharpshooter.
You're right. You're right. But that's early in his career.
If I get a B on a test, and a B ranks from 80 to 89%. I don't give 2 fucks if I get an 80%. I got a
That's a B minus. He was a sharpshooter minus at best.
But here's the thing: is if you got an 80 and I got an 89, I still got 9% more correct than you. If we have 100 targets and you hit 80 and I hit 89. I'm a significantly better target or shot than you.
I'm not saying that he was goddamn Chris Kyle in this thing. I'm saying that he was not as bad of a shooter as everybody anticipated he was. When he left the military, yes, he left as a marksman, but at some point in his military career, The guy could shoot.
So ranking aside, one thing that's I think important to note on his either amazing or not amazing ability to shoot is that from the 6th floor, the shot that he did allegedly make to kill President Kennedy has never been able to be recreated. So he is, I guess the best shot of all time by those standards.
No, you don't have to be the best shot of all time to happen to kill the president, right? I mean, as much as it's not been recreated, that doesn't mean that it's impossible. It just means that it hasn't been recreated. Am I saying that he meticulously planned this and that he knew that he was going to hit the president? No. I'm saying that he was not as bad as a shooter as people anticipated, and he may have gotten lucky in his shots. But I don't just because it hasn't been recreated doesn't mean that it didn't happen or couldn't happen.
You're not. I'll just say this one more time, Chase. You're not wrong. It's plausible. It's definitely plausible.
And I'll say it one more time. I know
you're not necessarily correct, but you're not necessarily wrong either. It is absolutely possible. I am a shit shot when it comes to guns. Like, you put me in a video game and I'll headshot you from 400 meters. Sometimes, depending on the game. But you give me a real gun and I'm going to have trouble hitting that soda can on the other side of the room.
Yeah,
but I could still get lucky. Like, that is absolutely one of my bad shots could accidentally do what I actually wanted it to do.
And the difference is that you're not military trained at all. So regardless of how bad you are, your worst is still not even close to the worst of any single military person.
You're right.
Because they still get military training.
Yep.
So as much as you may get lucky, this scrawny little Marine that wanted, to shoot the president can get lucky as well.
And he has a better chance of getting lucky than me. But the probability of that happening is very significantly low. It's a moving target. It's a moving target moving away from him.
At a fucking turtle's pace.
That's true.
It's still a moving target. I believe they were going 10 miles an hour.
I don't know if you watched that video. Great. It was actually moving at a decent clip, but anyway.
Yeah, but so let's take a step back. Is anybody say are any of us of the theory that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't shoot from the Texas Book Repository or whatever the hell it is?
Yes, I am of the Lee Harvey Oswald was in that window.
Yeah,
he was there with a gun. He was there. He was there firing bullets.
So one thing that's to that question, he was tested. The paraffin/nitrate test was done on him after he was arrested, and it showed. It showed as positive on his hands, so that he fired a gun, which is obvious because he killed a police officer later in the day with a gun. But it did not show on his cheek, where you would expect it to show if you're firing a rifle. But these tests are pretty poor, not really reliable, but I think it's important to note that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the fact that he didn't have shit on his cheek is not necessarily damning that he didn't blow the president's face off. I mean, I think that's just a silly, so if you disregard
you think
that.
He made an amazingly lucky shot, like a gangster style, like holding the rifle out from his arm and just like...
I don't know what the fuck this guy did. All that I'm saying is that Lee Harvey Oswald shot the president. Did he get lucky? Probably, but he shot the fucking president. So that's all that there is.
I disagree, but I think your points are moot in the reason that I disagree.
What?
Because
no,
they're moot in the reason because I'm not saying he was a bad. I don't think it doesn't matter to me his skill level. He could have been the highest expert, the best marksman in the world. Wouldn't have mattered. He could have had all of the motive. We could have letters to and from the Russian. We could have it from, I don't remember who the Russian leader at that time was. We could have direct letters penned in their own hand saying, I want you to do this, Lee. But it wouldn't matter. Him in that window to the back of John's head to that exit wound as seen on the film, is a